Do you want to be more likable, have more friends, or be less annoying? If someone sat me down and told me some of the things I'm going to tell you today, I would have had a much different life. Dawn Super here, helping people have better days. I want to start this off by saying I'm having a lot of pain in my face, so I'm going to be looking down at my notes a lot, and I just ask for your patience with that. Today I'm talking about how the things we experience when we're young shape our personality as adults, and if we don't like that, what we can do about it. Shout outs at the end of the video, so stick around for that. This is where I plead for you to subscribe. My channel is growing. I'm over 1,200 subscribers now, and I'm very excited about that. Please comment on the video, and I will give you a shout out as well. If you are watching this because you know you're annoying, hang in there. It does get better. I'm going to caption this. I'll edit the captions ASAP. So if you hit the closed captioning and the words make sense, I've already edited it. If not, I haven't got to it yet. This is a brief overview of the kind of work I do one-on-one with my clients to help them adjust their perspective. It's a good jumping off point, and it's going to give you some real tools that you can use to help you on your journey to be the you that you always wanted to be. I finally got here, and I'm sharing some of the things that I did to help me get here after a lifetime of trying to figure it out. There's no instruction manual for being a human being, and we have to write our own, and I'm here to help you write yours. This video is for adults who were picked on, bullied, or avoided, that have a hard time making friends now. So what do I know about being annoying and unlikable? Well, I'm not a doctor or a mental health professional. I was picked on from 1st through 7th grade in my tiny little class of 14 kids. And I didn't have any friends. I didn't feel liked, and I didn't like myself until I was 35 years old. At that point, I started to figure out how to make the right friends for me, and including the kind of people that I needed to avoid. So why am I making this video? Honestly, I'm hoping to cut the curve for someone who's living in the shoes I used to walk in. In many ways, I'm doing this because my younger self wants me to. And in every way, I'm doing this because making these videos is very healing for me too. So, yeah, that's why I do this. I enjoy it, and a lot of people write to me and tell me how I help them see things differently, and that keeps me going. So thank you to the people who comment and share their thoughts. Being a latchkey kid in the 70s, going to a very small school as a little kid, it affected the next several decades of my life. A lot of people say kids are mean to just dismiss the experience of someone who's been bullied, but they say, they're dismissing it, like telling you just get over it. And the process, you do end up just getting over it, but not by dismissing it or shoving it down. You do it by understanding. And that's something that you get into a little bit more in depth in coaching. But just know that kids are mean is not a valid end of a sentence when it comes to being bullied. There's a lot more to it. Trauma changes your personality. I had legit personality flaws that kept the kids from liking me. And no one ever sat me down and discussed it with me in a way that was constructive at all. So I'm making this video to sit you down if you are in those shoes, and to say, yeah, kids are mean, but you need to see your part, if there is any part in it for you at all. Being picked on for your looks, that's a different story. For your weight, that's a different story. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm only talking about personality type things. Like I lied a lot as a kid, and I did things to try and win favor with other kids. I wasn't myself, and that's what I'm talking about, is that kind of stuff. Not being who you authentically are, but being a reaction to the world around you. So when you're doing this, you have to look at your personality through a loving lens. You don't want to be cruel about it. You want to be honest, but you also want to be kind to yourself. From the cradle to the grave, this is it. You get this meat suit to live in. You got to take care of it. It's your vehicle. It moves you through the world and is kind of like the way you experience humanity. So up here, it's important to make sure it's a good place to be. And mine wasn't for a long time. And watching videos like this and listening to conversations like this can help you turn that around. So when I grew into an adult and I still didn't have any friends, that's when it was obvious that I was the common denominator in all of it. And nobody sat me down and said, Dawn, you're annoying. This is what you do, and this is why you do it, and this is how you can stop it. They just stopped returning my calls. I spent decades battling loneliness, like even in a crowded room. So if you're annoying and you know it, or you figure you must be because you don't have any friends, this video might help give you some ideas on what you can do about that. There's an important distinction to be made between needing people to like you and wanting people to like you. I did a whole video on this. It's what happens if I don't need people to like me, because needing people to like you affects your personality. So I'll link that below. If you're serious about working on changing your personality, it's something you should watch for sure. What are some annoying behaviors that make us unlikable? For me, I talk too much. A lot of it was trying to stay awake because I had undiagnosed narcolepsy for a long time. I also overshared, like TMI. Did not even understand that concept. I had no boundaries. And I got drawn into gossip. Gossip is social currency that bankrupts your soul. And Americans are super hungry for it all the frickin' time. And it affects our personality to do things like that. And we don't realize it when we're in the thick of it because it's social currency. We want friends. We want to be likable. We want to be with people. So we dish the dirt and sell ourselves out for a moment of friendship. I also have literal-itis, where I take everything very literally. I can deliver sarcasm quite easily, but I struggle with processing it. I have a very difficult time knowing when people are being sarcastic. Not as much anymore as I spent a long time with someone who's very sarcastic, and I did get some skills in that department, but I still do struggle with it. So some annoying behaviors just copied randomly off the internet are lying, being too loud, being negative or angry, being too positive. Yeah, like gross positive, like, too much. There is too much positivity because you dismiss people when you're too positive. So they say, be positive, have positive vibes, but be real too. Don't just be positive. Interrupting people, always being late. I'm going to do a video on how to stop being late because so many people really struggle with that. And I used to be late for everything and I overcame that. So I'll give some of the tips that I did in another video. Not doing your fair share is something that's annoying, right? Like you're never the person who drives or pays or is inconvenienced. You're just always along for the ride. People find that annoying. And drama bonding. If you have those friends who call up and all you do is just, it's a big drama sesh with each other, those relationships are the first ones you should look at giving the axe to because they don't help you in any way, shape, or form. A lot of times we think venting helps us, but venting helps in like a moment, but continuing to venting more than once, that's a toxic thing. You need to learn to let it go, because you're living in it. What you think about, you bring about. If you're talking about something, you're living in it. It's in your awareness, and that just perpetuates it. Some life factors that affect our personality. For me, the negatives were isolation, trauma, and again, the lifelong sleep disorders, narcolepsy, adding neurodivergence to the mix. My brain does not work the same way other people's does. So, the internet also mentions good or bad, it doesn't specify, but your home life, your school life, the way your family treats you, your neighborhood life, cultural influences, and mass media also have effects on your personality. Whether you have an internal locus of control or an external locus of control. Like, do you do things to please yourself, or do you do things to please other people? That also has an effect on your personality. So how can you turn it around, right? You're lonely, you don't have any friends, you're annoying. Like, what do you do? What are some of the steps that you can take to turn that around? So rebooting your life is not a quick fix. I've literally spent years on it, and I still have things that I have to keep bringing myself back to center on. I can tell you it does feel good right away to start trying different things to help you with your personality. A lot of times people notice right away when you make changes in your personality, and that's kind of like a encouraging thing to help you keep doing the new behavior that you're learning how to do. And don't feel weird about having to learn a new way to be. I mean, you're conditioned to be who you are now. So you're deprogramming yourself. You're removing all that conditioning, and bravo to you for even wanting to try to do that. A lot of people aren't awake enough for that. They just sleepwalk through their life thinking that, it is the way it is and they can't do anything to change it. But if you're still watching this, then you care and you want it to be different, and you're doing some of the things that you need to do that. So kudos to you for that. To see something that you do that's keeping you from having the life you really want gives you the courage to work on it. And you feel better about yourself. But I slipped like a lot. It's important to be gentle and kind with yourself too. And to remember that nobody knows what they're doing. There's no book. This is exactly how you behave every single day. And we're all just winging it. Every one of us is just winging it. And some of us just look like we know what we're doing. And that doesn't necessarily mean that we do. And it's not just you. We're all just trying to find our way. So for those of you watching whose personality was affected by trauma, like mine, you don't need to look at your trauma to reboot your personality. You don't need to open any old wounds or revisit any thoughts about it at all. You only need to be who you are today and be honest with yourself about your personality today, and be kind with yourself as you work on changing those things. So, where can you learn more about personalities and what is happening with yours? There's a free personality test online. It's at 16personalities.com. I'll put that in the description below. You answer a bunch of questions. You do this, you do that, you think this, you think that. And at the end, it gives you a 4-letter code for your personality. It's like whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, whether you think or feel, and it goes through it. I don't want to understand the intricacies of it. I don't care. But I got my letters, and then I read about what it said about my 4 letters. And you can agree or disagree with whatever you read. Nothing's set in stone, and not everything will apply to every person, obviously. But regardless of what you think of the test, it can give you some ideas on who you are right now. So as an INFP, I got a lot of comfort out of reading that there were other people like me. And some of those weird little fairy personality traits are common with people who answered the questions the same way that I did and ended up getting the same letters that I did. It gave me a sort of acceptance about some things about myself, kind of like, okay, it's okay to be sensitive because a lot of people are sensitive. I just need to learn how to work with being sensitive in a world that's not. And so that's my work to do, right? So I can still continue to be my sensitive self. I just have to have those protections to protect myself from people who don't respect that. And it also helps me choose my friends. Like as a sensitive person, I don't want to be with someone who likes to squish sensitive people. That's not my ideal friend group. No. Some famous INFPs are Princess Diana and Mr. Rogers. So I've got some big shoes to fill. But looking at the people who have the same personality type that you do helps to understand yourself a little bit more. Hysterically, when I typed into Google INFP, the second result was INFP are annoying. So I totally had my work cut out for me right from the get-go. Reading about it helped me understand a lot about myself. And what's great is it gives like strengths and weaknesses, and it gives you the dark side of your personality. And like one thing with INFP is we're quick to slam the door. Like we will take things to a certain point, and then we get that door slam and we're just done. It doesn't matter what you say or do, we're just done. And that's a dark side of the INFP. And so you can decide, how much you want to stick to that. I'm not saying you are INFP, but like when you get your letters and you look at your dark sides, like, is that a characteristic that you want to have? And if it's not, then you can do something about it. Instead of slamming the door, you can like find a different way. Like, okay, maybe if I work this out on paper or something, then I can find my way back to it. So that's what this is, being a human. It's like you got to do the work. You don't just show up and you know what to do. Like you really got to dig into yourself and figure it out. That's the gift of being a human being, is that you can do that. You're not stuck being a loud, obnoxious, lying gossiper. You can become somebody else by learning how to do that. So, another test that's free is the 5 love languages. It gives you like a brief overview of like how you show love. If you want to go deeper into the love languages, my friend Anne wrote a book, 18 Modern Love Languages. She's got a 60-page workbook that goes with it. And if you really want to change your personality, investing a couple dollars into doing that is not a bad thing to do. Her website is themodernlovelanguages.com, and you can check that out. Once you see, like you've taken the test and you look at what it says, your personality strengths and weaknesses are, then you can start to get into what's called shadow work. So everyone has, their light side and their shadow side. And the shadow aspects of yourself are things that you might not necessarily want to shine your light on. But when you do, it helps you understand yourself a little better. Like, I'm a very big giver. And when I'm giving to someone and I feel like the giving is not appreciated, then I get resentful. And understanding that about myself helps me know that what happens for me is my giving just gets stuck, right? Like I want to flow through my life. So instead of continually giving to the person who's not responding the way that I want them to, I give it to someone else. And in that way, you can continue to let your giving flow without taking on those hard feels from someone who doesn't respond the way that you want them to. Okay. There's a lot of tips online about how to deal with the shadow aspects of your personality. Understanding and learning boundaries is a massive benefit to anybody who's trying to do anything with their personality. If you don't know what boundaries are, if you've never set them, you've never held them, then your personality is most likely jacked because of that. People pleasing, codependent, those kind of things come from not having any boundaries, oversharing, being nosy. Again, no boundaries. A great resource for boundaries is Brene Brown. She's a shame and guilt researcher. She's got a lot of content on YouTube. You can watch all kinds of videos from her. She wrote a book called Dare to Lead. And even though I've never really thought of myself as a leader, I enjoyed her as an author. So I got the audiobook and I found it very life-changing. Very. Especially in terms of my personality. She talks about your square squad and who to share things with. And it's a fantastic book. I highly recommend it. If you identify as an empath, which is someone who feels other people's feelings, like you're with your friend and they're sad and you can feel their sadness, there's a book called The Empath Survival Guide by Judith Orloff. And that will also help you understand yourself a lot and what you can do about the aspects of your personality that you can read about in the book. So, Oversimplified, rebooting your personality is a two-step process. One, identify what you don't like about your personality. And then two, figure out what to do instead. It's simple, but it's not necessarily easy. Like I said, it took me a really long time to make the significant changes. I noticed things right away, and so did other people. In fact, that's how I ended up finding happiness at 41 years old, because at 35, I started liking myself, and I started trying to change some of the behaviors that I didn't like about myself. And in my early 40s, I succeeded in changing like a lot of the behaviors, and I made a significant amount of different friends. I started a new business. I made a lot of business colleagues, and all of those things came together into a little storm of me feeling good about myself, and then boom, happiness just bonked me on the head. So making sure you like yourself is a key component to finding happiness. Okay. You have to pay attention. A lot of this stuff is habit. You have to pay attention. I'll give you one example. Okay, I used to get drawn into gossip. I wasn't necessarily someone who ran to give gossip to other people, but like I would run into one of the moms at the school. She'd start asking me questions and I would just answer them because I was very literal. And if you ask me a question, I'm going to answer it. And not realizing that by answering it, I was participating in gossip. And I was keeping that going back and forth. And it would feel icky, but I was compelled to answer the question because of my personality. So the only way I could stop doing it was to avoid the people that drew me into gossip. They weren't the kind of people I wanted to be friends with anyway. So keeping that in mind, I would be like, oh, wow, that's really hard. I'm sorry going through that. I'm late for work. I got to go. And I just excused myself. And the more I stopped participating in those conversations, the less I felt icky. And when you feel better about yourself, you behave better. When you don't feel good about yourself, you don't behave the same. A lot of the work in learning how to make friends is specific to you as a person. Obviously, friendships are not cookie cutter and one size doesn't fit all. So you don't want to be friends with everyone. I don't want to be friends with people who gossip. And so I don't expect everyone to want to be friends with me anymore. I used to think if they have a heartbeat, they could be my friend. I had no discernment whatsoever. That's how desperate I was to have human contact in my life. Yeah, it changes you to need friends rather than wanting friends. Online friends are really good too. As someone who has a lot of health issues, I do a lot of my socializing online. It's how I keep up with people. And I might have lunch in person once every 6 months, but I'm, messaging them on Messenger or commenting on their photos that I get to see. So it's a little taste of someone's life. Social media can be bad if you see it through that lens. I'm also working on another video about perspective in social media. So if that's something that's interesting to you, make sure you're subscribed and hit that bell, because it'll be one of these longer videos that I dig into this concept of social media as the bad seed in the house. Be someone you'd want to hang around with. That's something I would tell myself when I'm at a gathering of people, I'm telling a story, and I just remember that I like to talk, and I could talk for hours and hours, and that's not fair, and it's not the kind of people other people want to be around. So I would remind myself, be someone other people want to hang around with, and I would tell my story and then sit quiet, even though, like if they ask me questions, of course I give them a follow-up, but not dominating the conversation is something that I had to practice. It's also something, be someone you want to hang around with is a reminder for you to be yourself. Like, I don't want to hang around with everyone. I want to hang around with people who like vibe with me. Like, I love deep conversation, and I love laughing, and I love talking about things. And so I'm more of an existential talky person than I am a go for a hike kind of person. So I look for people who like to have coffee and chat. And those are the kind of people that I tend to make the best friends with. People you can go to lunch and have a great conversation with. So give off your own vibe. If you're active, you want to find people that you can do activities with. If you're deep, you want to have people you can sit on a couch and drink a glass of wine or coffee and just chat with. Not everyone likes to do the same things. And it's important to have friends that like to do the kind of things that you like to do. It'll help you be who you want to be. Another video I'll put in the description is a quote I heard a long time ago. It's, have the courage to stand naked when others are wearing their suits. And essentially what it means is to always be who you are. And there are some nuggets in there about how you can do that. So again, the link in the description. It's who you are under your current personality is the naked you. And that's essentially what it means. So with some exploration, understanding, compassion, and maybe some conversations with people who love you and will be gentle and honest with you, you can come to find out how the world has poured its sauce on you and how you can start to wipe it off and find the you underneath it all. Helping people find themselves is a gift that I've been given. It's intrinsic and it happens fairly quickly for me. Often in the first session, people understand more about themselves than they ever have before. So if you're interested in a guide to take you through it all, I have a 10-week program that'll do just that. Visit my website, dawnsuper.com, and you can get started today. Shout outs. Time for shout outs. So much gratitude for all the growth of this channel. I'm so excited to see all the returning viewers and all the likes and views. It's just been fun to watch. And helping this many people is just, it just feels so good. Okay, on YouTube, commenting, shout outs. Brian Raberty, Lynn Stryker, Blondie, love that insightful comment. Sunny D, Sarah Lee, Belinda Wilson, and Bad Biker 666. Thank you so much for interacting with my channel and giving me your thoughts and encouragement. I appreciate it. On Facebook, I'd like to thank Jimmy Stevens, Jennifer Jojana Rusk Schmidt, Bill Smith, Mary Frances Henry Bell, Susan Kimple, Amy Fry McCarthy, Gary Reimer. Thanks for going so deep and really caring so much about your comments. I appreciate that a lot. Melanie Barzilay Allen, and Lori Dooley Brandon. Thanks so much for everybody. Again, I'm just taking requests. If you want to ask a question in the comments, I'll do a short or a video about it. And as always, make it a great day. The choice is always yours.